Everybody, this is Jonathan Kirsting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council and, of course, Tech Vibe Radio, bringing you the one mic stand. And today's episode is going to be super fun. I guarantee it. We are talking to Ian Kelly from Google, all talking about Google Cloud. And we all know and trust Google for our mail and our search and our docs. We don't often think about the fact that they have a whole side for business and storage and data, and it's just an amazing thing. And we're going to put a spotlight on that today with Ian. So Ian, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to talk with me today.
Jonathan, it's my absolute pleasure. This has actually been something I've been looking forward to since I heard this was even an option.
Wow. Well, now I feel like the pressure's on to make it
no, I have a lot of friends in Pittsburgh. I have a lot of people that I would sort of consider extended family.
Great.
And I actually have one of the managers on my team who's been on your show before.
Oh, yeah? Who's that?
So Rick Cottermansky was on your show a couple of years ago.
Yes, I know Rick Cottermansky. Fantastic. Very cool, man. Very cool. See, that's why we like doing the show, because it connects us to people all over the place. And we realize we already kind of know each other one way or another. So that's just super cool. Very much love it. Yeah, great stuff. So quickly, Ian, what's your background and what's your role at Google right now?
Yeah, so I went to college fully intending to be a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
And that didn't work out.
Okay.
So instead, I ended up deciding to go into computers sort of by accident.
Really? Cool.
Yeah, I ended up as a computer science economics double major.
Okay.
And then had to figure out what to do with it. This was during the 90s, so the dot-com bubble was happening. And I'd always sort of looked at Google as a dream job.
Yeah.
Just looking from the outside, I couldn't quite figure out how they did the stuff that always seemed marginally impossible.
Okay.
And I just wanted to go see how it was done.
How is this done? Right. Because you got a curious mind, then. I love that. That is cool.
It's been a fascinating journey. I've been here about 11 years now.
Okay. Wow.
And just constantly, year after year after year, I keep saying, this has got to slow down at some point. They've got to run out of good ideas at some point, and it just doesn't seem to happen.
That is one of those things where they're always coming up with stuff, and it's like, yeah, there's some super smart people working there. And it's like sometimes I wonder, is this alien technology that's being brought to us?
No, but what's kind of fun about it now is the job I'm in now is actually helping some of our engineers work with customers out in the field to figure out how they can do things that they've always thought was impossible.
Wow, that's
right.
Cool.
Like the biggest, scariest challenges that they go like, man, we tried this once and it was too hard.
Right.
Well, find some people that are super type A people that really like to help.
Right.
And like they just want to dive in with 2 feet and see what's possible.
That's so cool.
And
that's why you've been there for 11 years, right? You'll probably be there for another 11 years because that's got to be way too much fun.
No, it's humbling to be here, but it's truly amazing to see.
For sure. Now, so you mentioned earlier that you've been to Pittsburgh quite a few times, and so Google in Pittsburgh is like literally, it's like one of the foundational pieces as to what's driving our tech ecosystem here. And it's amazing because they've been here for over a decade, and they grow and they grow and they grow. They're anchoring East Liberty in the east end of Pittsburgh. And at the Tech Council, I think everyone in Pittsburgh is just always pumped that Google's here doing what they do. Tell us more about Google's presence in Pittsburgh and what you think when you come to visit Pittsburgh and hang out in the Google offices.
Yeah, so it's a couple things. There's a couple of restaurants in Pittsburgh that I just love going. There's the Burnt Almond Torte from Crandall's.
Oh, of course.
There's just a few of these things like Casbah Spoon that just, I don't know.
You're making me hungry now.
Right? So there's elements of that just personally appeal to me. But from a work perspective, what I think is really just gratifying to see is just the community in Pittsburgh is blossoming.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you live there, like you talk about this a lot, but this might not be as apparent to you because you're there every day.
But I like hearing this outsider's view. Keep going. Absolutely.
It's like if you have kids, you see your kids grow up and they look a little bigger today. But if you have like somebody you didn't see that much, they grow a ton over the space of a few weeks. It's kind of like that.
Right, I remember. Cool. That's a very cool analogy. I'm going to have to use that. I might steal it.
I remember seeing when Google Ventures was investing in companies like Duolingo, right? And it was this relatively small company that had some great technology wins earlier, and seeing where it is now, I think it's one of the highest valued unicorns on the planet. Like that's
and it's in Pittsburgh, and it's got Google ties.
It's all tied to that. It all comes out of Carnegie Mellon and sort of the ties that are starting to form there. Bringing over Andrew Moore to head up some of the AI work we're doing, I think is symbolic in both directions.
Definitely, yeah.
Right, of wanting to be involved and sort of directly part of that incubation community and lifestyle that's coming, but also sort of the renaissance of sort of the more traditional companies in Pittsburgh as well.
Very much so. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. And I love hearing that perspective from someone who's not here all the time. It makes me feel a little bit better about Pittsburgh. You're the best. I love it. Super cool. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about, Google Cloud, because like I said, so
Mhm.
many people may not just realize that there is a super powerful tool for business out there. I mean, you have the customers that you guys have are just it's a who's who of who's kicking butt in business as far as I'm concerned. It's from the Home Depots, the PayPal's, Twitters of the world. Give us a quick little elevator pitch for what's up with Google Cloud.
Yeah, I mean, so from the beginning, they kind of said, we think we're pretty good at running websites. I
You
mean,
think they know
we're
it? Yeah.
pretty good,
Just a little
right?
bit.
Things are
little,
available pretty fast.
little proclivity going on there, right?
It doesn't matter what it is. It's probably like entwined deeply in your life of whether it's finding Starbucks or translating stuff on the fly or just finding information. And somebody finally said, we should make this available to other people.
Yeah.
Like, this is a ridiculous waste if we just keep it sort of hidden internally. We should go help people solve the hardest challenges.
Love it.
We know you can run a data center, that's fine, but we have some ways of doing this that might actually benefit you. Right. And then since then, it's been this journey of working with customers to figure out the best ways to work with them, not trying to force our perspective on them,
Okay.
and really leaning into some things like open source technology to make sure that they can stay with Google because it's the best experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them the most value, it gives them the most flexibility, it's the fastest thing to grow on. And we want them to stay because they like it.
Absolutely.
Right. And that something that personally appeals to me at a pretty deep level.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
just we get to earn people's trust day after day after day and really go deep with them to solve the thorniest of problems. Right. So in coronavirus lands, quick, do you actually know how to do curbside pickup? Like, this sounds pretty simple, right?
No, but it's a complicated thing, right? It requires some powerful technology to make that happen, right?
Yeah. Or how are you going to do curbside pickup if it's snowing? Or if, the list kind of goes on and actually helping people work through the supply chain, the logistics, all of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
When this lands well, it is flat magic.
I believe
right.
it.
And some of the places we've been able to help, we saw the CEO of Lowe's, for instance, was on Mad Money with Jim Cramer. And he's up there talking about how, their .com business never would have worked without Google running behind the scenes.
Wow, that's crazy, man. You're getting some unsolicited feedback like that. It's like, whoa, that's pretty awesome.
I don't know about you, but I don't think of a home improvement store as being sort of cutting edge digital until you start actually
in this day and age, right? They got to be running analytics and machine learning and AI on no one's business. So when I get to the store, I can find what I need and get suggestions as to what else I might need and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's an estimate out there that says 90% of apps will be AI powered by 2025.
I believe it, man. Absolutely.
And as somebody who just bought a toaster that has embedded AI to figure out when my toast is done, I'm starting to think that might be
Well, I'm a little jealous of your toaster right now.
Let's really
talk about that. Does it make pretty good toast? Like perfection toast?
We have small kids. We make a lot of toast. It was a good investment.
I would believe so, man. I would believe so. But so that's a startling, just stat to say that, and knowing that you need a platform like what's happening on Google Cloud in order to enable that type of thing to happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, whether you know it or not, just AI has been, and machine learning has been absolutely core to what Google's been doing for the last, 8 or 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're starting to see more and more startling examples of it. 5 years ago, maybe there was a small announcement that Google's playing chess really well using AI.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played Go at a national level and then an international level and became crowned as the Go champions. And I think most people
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's
so cool. This doesn't matter. And to some extent, it didn't. Unless you were really deep and sort of inside baseball and knowing what was going on, it didn't really matter.
Right.
What just happened about 4 days ago, AlphaFold, which is the direct offshoot of that, is actually working on protein folding.
Wow.
This is taking amino acids and guessing the correct shape of the protein. You remember this from being very important because this is the basis now of how vaccines are being developed.
I was going to say, this is why we're able to make a vaccine happen in under a year when it took 5 to 20 years. So having that power, that computing power makes this happen.
And I will say, full disclosure, we're not there yet. Right, but
you will be. I know you will be.
It looks promising that some of the proteins that was guessed by AlphaFold are on par with X-ray lithography, crystal lithography, cryo-EM, some of the gold standards. So
See, that's the type of stuff that makes me sleep better at night. It's like one of those, especially like whenever I visit Carnegie Mellon and like Pitt's engineering labs and so forth, and I see these researchers, these women, these men working on these problems, and you think about what Google's doing, you're like, man, you cannot keep the human being down. Like, we're going to use technology to figure out and solve the world's toughest problems. And it just seems like every year, every day, it gets a little better and better because the technology gets better. People get more clever. It's like the technology pushes the people and then people push the technology. I think it's so amazing.
No, absolutely. I think you got that. You got that in one, right? And it's a lot of this is about bringing that same technology and leveling the playing field, right? We talk a lot about democratizing access to this stuff. It used to be, but you could do that if you owned your own data center and had 100,000 servers and did all this crazy stuff. Now we're saying you're two guys in a garage.
Right. So think about that. If you think about that, if you go back like 10 years, there was no the access to the power of the platforms like Google Cloud was just not there. Like, you literally had to have your own servers. And we love maintaining our own servers and buying them and all that kind of fun stuff because it's pretty cheap and easy to do, right? Not just being facetious, of course. And the idea now that these are powerful tools that not only that Home Depot can use, a billion dollar company, but a two-man, two-woman, two-person startup can go and access these same platforms, right?
It's funny, sort of, if you look in the middle, sort of like moderately sized companies, one of the big challenges they found with running their own data centers, especially this year, has been, what if somebody catches COVID? Do you actually know how to keep your data center up if somebody gets sick? Does everybody quarantine? How do you handle this? Right. And it turns out this is one of these things that Google's been focused on for years. I think it was in 2012 we ran an exercise, we call it DIRT, which is disaster recovery and testing.
Wow.
And we said, what if there is a massive outbreak of some epidemiological scale that takes offline data centers and knocks headquarters off campus? Like, what next? Right. And we actually were running these things. And so by the time we get to 2020, where essentially anything that could go wrong did go wrong, we actually had plans that were not only theoretical plans of, we have an idea of what we'll do. They were tested. Right? If somebody in a data center gets sick, what do? Oh, we actually have an answer to this that we practiced.
That's amazing. I never even thought about things at that level. Right. That makes so much sense that you would be doing that. And you did, and it worked.
And it works is kind of the neat thing. But it's also, most companies don't spend a lot of time doing that in disaster, worst case planning ahead. And so one of the things we talk to people about is like, we can help you, even if it's just a backup plan, like just like, we don't want you to go down. You're in a promising spot. Like, where can we help? And it's conversations like that I think leave people a little bit more open to the idea of making the investment and the change.
Absolutely. It makes a lot. I mean, this has my brain thinking about security. I mean, I think cybersecurity is the absolute top concern pretty much of any business out there. And when they're, on the cloud, they're on someone else's platform, that's got to be top of mind. And I'm going to have to assume that, man, Google knows what the heck it's doing when it comes to keeping things safe and secure. Can you give us more deets and maybe some fun anecdotes about just how secure your platforms are these days?
Yeah. So look, talking about security takes like a full day because it's just a broad topic, right? Absolutely. And we can talk about everything from the policies and procedures, which to me is actually where most of this starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that brings it down to a cultural level. We always say that cybersecurity starts with, it has to be a culture. It's not just the technology, it's the people and how they behave and how they work. Yeah.
And we run from there all the way down to doing things like creating custom pieces of silicon to enforce security policies, at the bits and bytes levels. There's something called the Titan chip, which we actually embed in the internet controllers of our servers.
Okay.
And we can enforce granular cryptographic operations at that level.
Really? So, down to the chip level. Holy.
Down to the chip level.
That's cool. See?
Oh, it's awesome.
Once again, that's people pushing the technology and then technology pushing the people. That's so cool.
Right? And you go like, well, if we ran an exercise and said like, hey, hire the 100 smartest security researchers you can find. Could you guys break this? And just see what they can come up with. And if they can come up with anything, like, guess what? Somebody out there is thinking along the same lines.
Exactly.
We should do that. Oh, right. And it's an active practice. It's something we really, really pride ourselves on being diligent about. And this is sort of the corollary. Because, hey, but you guys are an ads company. You're probably reading all my mail and you want, no. just we should put this to bed.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that, because I know so many people talk about, everyone feels like they're so special and that everything of theirs is being scanned and then used against them or to sell them something at some point in time.
No, but I mean, especially when we talk about enterprises,
Yeah.
right? There's contractual guarantees that clearly say we don't do that stuff.
Right.
But it's still one of those huge challenges we hear, like, you must be. No, absolutely not. That's a hard no from us.
It's a hard no. But I would have to assume that's the case. And once again, there's a lot of conspiracy theorists out there. And let's try to put that to bed for just a little bit. My goodness. Crazy stuff. So let's talk about the fact that, like, so really anyone can jump onto this platform, which I think is just so powerful. This isn't something where it's like, no, you got to be a big company. You can start at any level. And this is something that's going to grow with you as your business grows and as your needs change and pivot. The platform's there to pivot with you.
Spot on. Look, when Snapchat started, it was like two guys who had a little app.
Yeah.
And they didn't have DevOps. They didn't have servers. They didn't have any of the stuff. And as they grew from a couple of people to, it's a fairly large company now.
We're somewhat sizable. Take up a little bit of space on the server rack, right?
And so I think we've seen that just over and over and over again, right? As small ideas blossoming into the greatest ideas without sort of that natural adolescent phase when it's kind of awkward and, uh-oh, what are we doing now? They just go straight through that. It's a smooth transition because from day one, you're running on enterprise grade bulletproof hardware, software platforms.
With Titan chips.
Yeah, we've started putting Titan chips in phones now too, because we realized it's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's like, this works.
You should make ubiquitous end to end to end.
So when we talk about, a two-person company that's going to grow to be something like Snapchat and the amount of capacity it uses, on your data centers, people want to talk about the environmental impact of those data centers. And I know Google's done a lot when it comes to, streamlining and just pulling efficiencies out of these things to make them as environmentally friendly as possible. Because we know, like, running Twitter ain't cheap on the environment as far as that goes. Can you give us more details on how Google works on those edges?
Yeah. So we've been carbon neutral for years and years and years, right? This was just one of those things that we just said, if Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible, we also should do this, and we should not be evil.
Like that.
Well, like, if we're going to be good for things, we should do this in a way that,
like, not be evil to the environment too, right?
And so we went from having all of our data centers being carbon neutral to actually buying enough offsets to be lifetime of Google to be neutral.
Wow. Are you serious?
Right? We
That's
are
impressive.
Yeah, no, it's truly amazing. And it's not just buying offsets, it's having the world's most efficient data centers. And sort of, if you look at the way we use power in the data centers, just being massively efficient, which honestly, it's good for us because it costs less to operate data centers. It's good for the environment because it operates with less energy. Right. And so there's this constant sort of virtuous cycle of trying to find the right balance of carbon neutrality and recyclable energy. And, net, the intent is to be a good person and a good company and a good corporate citizen on the world stage and not just sort of on the stock market.
Cool stuff, man. You have me convinced, that's for sure. Like I said, that's why I love telling these stories, because I'm learning something new as I talk to you, and I'm hoping that our listeners are learning something new as well too. I mean, what have we not covered that you think is really important about, Google Cloud, Google in general, Google in Pittsburgh? Anything that sticks out that we need to cover before we put a bow on this cool podcast?
I mean, selfishly, we're hiring. We have dozens of jobs open, from interns to senior managers and stuff. I've got a position on my team.
Okay.
If you know anybody that's spectacularly technology talented, they're a good human being and they're looking for a challenge, I would love to talk to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point you bring that up, because I know Google's hiring like crazy in Pittsburgh, like despite the pandemic. Like, keep your eyes peeled on that for sure.
No, and beyond that, it's just, we really want to be known throughout Western Pennsylvania as the company that's there to partner with people.
Love it, man.
Right. It's an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing region of the country. It is just full of rich and complicated problems that have, some cases, they're inventing as they go.
Right. Oh yeah, that's how it works here. I think everywhere for sure.
Industries that are finally going, we think there might actually be a way to revolutionize the industry. And sort of that entire scope of challenges, like the breadth and the diversity of challenges there, is just breathtaking. and it's something we want to get in on.
Love
Right.
it.
This
So
is kind of
if I'm out there trying to develop something, I should reach out to you guys. No matter how big you are, let's find a local contact here, reach out and say, here's what I'm thinking. How can we work together? Like, don't be shy, right?
absolutely. No, we love solving problems. We want to get doing more of it.
Good
So
stuff, man. Oh, what a fun conversation, Ian. So much fun. You have completely enlightened me. You taught me some things today that I did not know about. And I just think hopefully our listeners will get a ton of value out of this. Because like I said, Pittsburgh is definitely super pumped that Google's doing what it's doing. And to know more that we have this Google Cloud platform that is there for, one person startup to massive enterprise companies. They're using the same technology with those Titan chips. Great stuff, Ian. Thank you for joining me today. You are the best.
it was my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.